Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Tanisha's Reading Corner podcast. I am your host, Tanisha. Tanisha's Reading podcast is dedicated to anyone who desires to make reading a daily habit as a form of self-care. To stay updated when a new podcast is uploaded, please subscribe to the channel. In addition, you can find me on Instagram at Tanisha's Reading Corner for many book recommendations and tips and tricks on how to keep reading a daily habit. Let's dive into today's episode. Wow. Welcome back to another week, another episode of Tanisha's Reading Corner. Also, before we begin, please tell a friend, share, like, review the episodes, so that way we can help grow the podcast and get more people reading as a daily habit. All right, let's get into today's episode. Today we are discussing the Ex Hex, by Erin Sterling. I love this book so much that I finished it all in one sitting. No lie. True story. It has it all. It has mystery, magic, family drama, lots of comedy, romance, a lot of steamy romance. This is not for young people. And also finding true love, finding your place in the world, and all these greatness that makes a story just absolutely wonderful. Now, the main narrator of this story is Vivienne, voiced by Vivi, and it all starts with the line, "Never mix vodka with witchcraft." Now, that line, I was hooked onto the book from that moment onward. How we start this is that Vivi is heartbroken because a man that she was dating named Rise last minute decides to tell her that he's, after months and months of courtship and dating, "Oh, by the way, I'm betrothed to someone else." Awkward. So, yeah, of course, it does not end well. And, she's, a little tipsy and also doing witchcraft. And her and her cousin Gwen, they decide, let's play a little prank. Not really prank, but let's put her hex on him. And so they decide to do this little hex and curse her ex-boyfriend. And, it was all fun and everything, but she's like, it's not going to stick. But then at the end, you see a candle kind of flickering in the wind. It's like, ooh, did something just happen there? Or was it real? Was it a real curse? Was it a fake curse? Was it a hex? Here you go. Also, before we continue, spoilers. There will be spoilers in this episode. So if you have not read the book yet, please go get it. The Ex Hex by Erin Sterling. Read through it. Then press play, come back to the episode, and we'll continue to discuss. So, before we continue, just in mental note, how many of you have ever wanted to curse someone that you just didn't like? Not curse out, or, maybe perhaps, yeah. But also just send like a hex or something at particularly an ex who's broken your heart. Well, that's what happened with Vivi. At first, it was just all fun and games, but, as I said earlier, there was still a candle flickering. And so one thing that comes up a lot in this novel is that when candles flicker in the wind, or if candles start flickering and there is no wind, there's magic going on. So be careful what you wish for in this case, because as I said, Reese comes home to fulfill his family duties. He runs into his ex. Awkward. Actually, she almost runs him off the road, which I guess you can say is kind of nice karma after the way he broke her heart. But hey, even with the awkward run-in, you can definitely tell that there's still a lot of chemistry between them. They still love each other. But, yeah, there's still a lot of sparkle, as Gwen would say, the sparkle between you two when they would look at each other. So, one thing I like about how this novel is written is that it switches between the two narrators, between Vivi, who is our main character, but also it gives the perspective of Reese, which is the ex who has been hexed. And, you get his side of the story about why he had to leave, why he felt he couldn't stay. And the reason why he couldn't stay, because he didn't feel like he was essentially good enough for her. He was still trying to find himself. And, also that and the fact that he was betrothed to somebody else and just, after 3 months of dating, just finally decided to tell her. Yeah, that kind of killed the romance there. But going back into this book, one of the things I just love about it is the use of magic and how they brought in contemporary ideas of contemporary styles and contemporary uses of magic in media. Like, for example, they bring up The Craft, which was a very, very dark and scary movie back in the 90s. That was a good one. And also they bring up a Harry Potter reference as well. Reese asks Vivi, so you were one of the Harry Potter thingies, and it's like, what's a Harry Potter thing? Well, you found out later in life, whereas Reese, he always knew that he was a warlock or witch. So inevitably Vivi has to tell Reese about the curse that she had put on him, and honestly though, at first, I would have thought he would have taken this bad, but, you know, if Reese has that kind of personality where he doesn't really take things too seriously, he's like, oh, I kind of deserve that, not gonna lie. But a lot of weird things start to happen. A lot of good and bad things start to happen. They start talking more, and there is magic between them, but some dark magic starts coming up. Like Sir Percival, who is the cat that lives with Vivi, her cousin Gwen, and her aunt Elaine, starts talking. At first, Gwen is excited, like, oh yeah, I have a talking cat. Who wasn't want a talking cat? But the only thing that the cat can say is treats, and you know, then afterwards it's like, yeah, this is getting kind of annoying. But then also, magic, which can be wonderful, it can be sweet, it can be everything. It has a dark side to it as well. And where we really see the dark side of the magic coming through is with the ghost Piper. Now, Piper comes in. It's after the ghost appears in the library of her college, where she is a professor at, that she really starts to regret hexing him in the first place. The ghost appears at first when the novel plays out the ghost story. It's freezing cold, so you kind of get this daunting idea of, okay, something ominous is coming. And then the ghost appears, it's levitating, and it kind of goes after Reese first before it goes out to everybody else, and you don't really know why, but then later you find out why that is. And so, I mean, as we go along and what we find out about magic, while it can build and be this powerful thing that can, you know, send you up soaring, it can also drain you. It's an energy source, really, if you really think about it. And especially when we see this with the ley lines, or in other words, the power, kind of like the power lines of magic that run underneath the city. So that's why Reese had to come back. He had to go underneath the city of Glendale and recharge these lines to get the power back open. But mind you, he's hexed. He doesn't know this at the time. She tells him afterwards, of course. But yeah, he's hexed, and so the hex goes out of him. So all that energy that he's storing up, the magical energy, goes out of him, goes into the ley lines, and now the whole town is cursed. Yeah, so a lot of bad things start to happen. For example, in the store that her cousin Gwen owns, a lot of toy skeletons start coming alive. Headtails start coming alive and start attacking the customers. A vengeful ghost like Piper becomes unleashed, and you know, and also the cat starts talking. So, which, I mean, that's not really a bad thing. It's kind of cool. But what we learned from Piper, though, is that her spirit was bound. So it was really a bad thing that she was unleashed, bound, because she was tapping into dark magic. And so again, throughout this whole love play between Reese and Vivi, going back to them for a minute, so we really kind of see them coming to a head and start falling back in love with each other as they go to try to fix the problem that, you know, they both kind of created. I mean, they both come to the realization, you know what, yeah, you did hex me, but I didn't have to break your heart. I could have been honest with you. So they do come to a compromise on that part. So they go to the house where Piper was first performed the spell that essentially ended up killing her. And what they find out is that she has a bit of a vendetta against the Penhallow family, or Reese's family. She goes on how the Penhallows are cursed and how they need to give back what they took, and curse for what has been done and what needs to be refixed in order to get back. And so, yeah, they're like, okay, what did you do? What did your family do? And so eventually what we find out years later is, not later, but in order for them to figure out, okay, how do we fix all this, they had to actually release the ghost of Piper, her aunt Gwen, her cousin Gwen, and her aunt all release her spirit so they can ask her questions as to why the town is cursed, what's going on. And what they find out was that Piper was actually trying to undo and harm that the Penhallows had put on them. In fact, it was Vivi's ancestor, Halloween, who is the real powerful one. But the Reese's ancestor killed her and used her body as a way to power his family. So you got a lot of family drama going on here, which is interesting because their descendants would fall in love with each other, of course. So Piper wanted to raise Halloween Jones from the dead, but the magic that she was using was much too powerful for her, and it drained too much of her energy and ultimately ended up killing her. So essentially, the curse, same thing, that is on the town is essentially a blood curse, and the only person that can lift it is Halloween herself. And so, and this is just, okay. So now they have to go back to the tunnel in which the ley lines were, and they finally raise Halloween, but Vivi gets possessed by Halloween for a moment, and she almost goes after Reese and tries to kill him, but she sees in Vivi's heart that she still loves him. But Halloween tells him, like, sorry y'all, there's nothing I could do. I'm paraphrasing here, my version of what she was saying. There's nothing I can do, I'm dead. And so dead magic can't do anything for you in this real world. And so that's that for the moment. But then honestly, the three women that are left in the family line, Gwen, the cousin, Aunt Elaine, and also her, they all come up to each other like, no, that's not it, we can do this. So they three came together and they were able to help purify the magic and effectively stop the curse and the hex. So again, magic can be used to grow and create and prosper and fill you up with all this joy, but it could, when used incorrectly, it can also drain your energy source as well. So I like that. I liked how that fun little play that they used on magic. So going back, that was the first thing. I loved how they used the magic in this novel. The second thing was the love story between Reese and Vivi. They have this fun, witty little banter back and forth with each other. He's always looking at her, she's looking at him. They always have this little sparkle about them. And, well, before we continue, we're going to take a quick little break, and then we'll come right back, so stay tuned. Ladies of the podcast, did you know that your period is not supposed to hurt? Periods are normal, but the pain should not be. Inflammation occurs naturally on your cycle, but painful periods indicate that the inflammation is higher than it should be. That's where Semaine supplements come in. Semaine PMS supplements comes packed with 9 superpowered plant extracts and minerals. Semaine will not only help to lower your pain levels, but to also support your body naturally from cycle to cycle. For more information, go to their website at Semaine, SEMAINE, health.com. Also follow them on Instagram at Semaine Health. Also, listeners of the podcast, when you find a supplement that you like to use, your promo code, Tanisha's Reading Corner, to get 20% off your first bottle. Again, the promo code, Tanisha's Reading Corner, to get 20% off your first bottle. Now, let's get back into the episode. Alright, So thank you for staying tuned. So jumping right back in, the love story between Vivi and Reese. I just love it. Honestly, their love story can really be summed up by this quote on page 274. It's actually a conversation she's having with her cousin, but it's kind of cute. So it goes, baby girl, Gwen sighed, and Vivi hugged her back, letting herself cry. It's so stupid, Vivi. So is love, to be honest, Gwen. We're completely wrong for each other, Vivi, which is why it's hot. Gwen. I cursed him, Guinevere. Vivi. Who among us hasn't? I love Gwen. Gwen is probably one of my favorite characters outside of Vivi. She's just fun. She's basically the voice of the audience. She tells it like it is. Like when Reese's father, Simon, comes to town, he starts bullying him in the kitchen because he comes over to Vivi's house to try to figure out what's going on with the town. Why is everything going so haywire? And she looks at him there. Look at here. I am not your son. I will go all forms of hell on you. You keep this up. And for once he was like, oh wow, okay. I love her. One of my favorite characters. That and Sir Percival. They're two together. Super cute. But yeah, so they just have this fun little wordplay with each other, and like I said earlier, you can tell after so many years apart, they've dated other people, but they always found their way back to each other. And throughout this novel, they realize, that they do belong together. Actually, by one of the cliffhangers that they leave out towards the end is that they go their separate ways at the end. But 9 months later, Vivi's back at her college study office area, and she's being sent down to the office to look for something, and she looks at one of the doors and sees Reese's name on it. So she runs inside, and boom, there he is. He's like, I've been around the world, but I only want to be with you. It's just like, heart flutter, like, this tension, the chemistry. I love it. It's not cheesy, it's not over the top, it's just perfect. It's a type of relationship that you can kind of see happen in modern day times, which makes it adorable. And there's a lot of steamy romance, so this is not for young kids. As I said earlier, this is definitely X-rated, but for all you young adults, no, not young adults, not preteens, I'm talking 18 and older crowd, this is for you. It's just a fun read. I absolutely loved it. And really the heart, the center, the core of this novel is really about families, family ties, things that bring us together, things that tear us apart. Also, not just the family that we have, but the family that we create as well. One of the things that Reese says at the end that really struck a chord with me is like, I want a family and I want one with you. And so they now come together and can become their own family as well too. It's important to know that Vivi is an orphan. She lost both her parents, so she came to this town to live with her aunt and her cousin. And they become essentially, many times they'll always say, no, we're not a coven, we're family. Like a coven, which is a group of witches, which is they are witches. Vivi is a witch, Gwen is a witch, Elaine is a witch, Rice is a witch. In this context, everyone's a witch. There's no such thing as warlocks, there's no difference. Power to the female. But yeah, and so just the power of it. And also you see the contrast between Vivi's family, how it's a warm, loving, and supportive unit, whereas Reese's family, not so much. He's the youngest brother and a whole line of brothers and witches. And, the relationship between him and his father is very just off-putting as well. He doesn't think that he's living up to the family name. He's like, and Reese is telling him, look, I want to live my life. I don't want to do this. I don't want to be a part of the family business. And he essentially finds his purpose with Vivi. And so they kind of now can come together and be that family unit that I think Vivi always wanted. And honestly, early on in the book, when they're riding off to the Haunted Mansion to trap the ghost, she actually says, that thinking about her family and her past, it doesn't make her as sad as it did when they initially met. So in that, you see growth. And through that growth of being able to accept what has happened with her own family, she's able to now move forward and start a new family with Reese. So yeah, family ties, love stories, magic, you got it all. You got everything in this book. And I'm not going to give away everything because I do want you to go get the book and read it. But I gotta say, it's just absolutely just beautiful. And one of the main kind of things that I got from this is that when you hold on to history, you do it at the expense of your death. Case in point, the analogy within Piper, the witch who became a ghost, now trapped as a vengeful spirit, versus Vivi, who is moving forward in her life. Because, once they found out the truth about what really happened with the town, how the ancestor of the Penhallows, murdered the ancestor of the Joneses family, and how they kind of ciphered all their magic away, Piper wanted to try to restore that by, raising her spirits up from the dead. But it's like Eloina said, I'm dead. You guys got to move on. I mean, I get what happened was horrible and wasn't fair, but you can't, change the past. You can't change what has happened. So how do we move forward? And Vivi's like, you know what? We can't change that, but what we can do, we can apologize to each other for what we did. I can apologize to you for hexing you. You can apologize to me for leaving. And we can purify this magic and we can move forward together. And they do move on, and they do become lovers again. Not just lovers, not just like sexual lovers, partners, but just like lovers, like love. Yeah, I just, this, I could go on and on and on and on and on. But I must say, this was the perfect read for this time of year, Halloween, All Hallows Eve, which comes on a Monday this year, which, But as always, I like to end each podcast with a quote from an author. So today's quote comes from Roald Dahl. Those who don't believe in magic will never find it. And on that note, I thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Tanisha's Reading Corner. Please, please, please like, rate, review the episode, share it with family and friends, help grow the podcast, and I will see you next Wednesday. Bye. Thank you. Good. I wish you all a spooky Halloween and good wellness and good reading.